Am I the astronaut for putting a stop to my 12-year-old daughter's period party? Let me set the stage. My wife and I, 43 male, 42 female, have 2 daughters, 7 years apart. 19-year-old was at college in a different state when this happened. Girls are very different. 19-year-old is outgoing, even extroverted, loves meeting new people, trying new things, etc. 12-year-old is a shy homebody, finds things she's comfortable with and sticks with them. In fairness, 19-year-old was kind of like this until she was 16 or so. Maybe it's genetic. A couple months ago, 12-year-old comes to me in my home office, obviously upset, stammers a bit, then manages to tell me that she just got her first period. I played the supportive dad, comfort her, and get her a box of sanitary pads my wife had bought earlier in the year, guessing this was going to happen sooner or later, and go over the instructions with her. She goes into her bathroom, does what she has to do, thanks me for my help. I got her some ice cream and my doll, told her there was nothing to be embarrassed about, and she could always come to me for anything. Wife gets home later that day. 12-year-old tells her what happened. Wife starts crying. My little girl's growing up, etc. Then asks who should be invited to the period party, which I only knew of from listening to Bert Kreischer. If they were a thing when our 19-year-old started, she never asked for one. 12-year-old immediately closes off, says she doesn't want a period party, doesn't want anyone to know. Wife tries to talk to her some more, but 12-year-old ignores her and goes to her room. Wife tries to enlist my aid in changing her mind, but I tell her she said she didn't want one. Don't worry about it. 2 days later, I get home from running errands, and before I can even make it to the stairs, 12-year-old runs up to me and asks if she can do her homework in my office. I'm confused, but say sure. She bolts upstairs. At this point, I started to suspect what was going on. I walked into the living room to find that my wife had not only decorated it like something which wouldn't have looked out of place on my super sweet 16, but there were several family friends, all women, and a few I recognized as neighborhood mothers. I beckon wife into the hall. She asks where 12-year-old is, and I tell her she wanted to do homework in my office. She rolls her eyes and started to move past me, but I step in front of her. Me, what are you doing? Wife, going to get the 12-year-old. It's her party. Me, she told you specifically she did not want one of these. Wife, oh, she didn't mean that. This is an important time for the girl. She needs to know not to be ashamed of her body. Nothing like shaming her will accomplish that, Mom. Me, she's not. I already explained things to her. She just doesn't want to talk about it more. Wife, I don't expect you to understand. This is just for us women. Nope. She actually tried to push past me, but I stepped into the doorway and completely blocked her. Wife, what's wrong with you? Me, what's wrong with you? You know how shy she is. You know she didn't want to do something like this, and you did it anyway. Wife, I told you, it's for her own good. We can't let her grow up with a negative attitude towards something so natural. Me, and we're not. I told you, she knows what's going on. She's getting a handle on it. She just doesn't want to talk about it with anyone else for right now. Wife, well, it wasn't your business to tell her about it anyway. Me, you were at work. Was I supposed to ignore her for 4 hours until you got home? Wife, you could have called me. I would have come home. Me, it still would have taken you an hour. She was upset. I knew what was going on. I talked her through it. Wife, you don't know anything about it. It's never happened to you. At this point, I gave up. Point to my wife. No, I've never had a period, but I had 3 older sisters and a live-in girlfriend before my wife, and I met. Plus, we've been married almost 21 years. I'm pretty well versed. She again tries to move past me, but I don't move. Me, no, she doesn't want this. I'm not letting you make her do it. Wife, fine. Have it your way. She goes back to the living room and tells the other ladies the period party is off because I'm being a jackass. I lose it, follow her in, and let the women know calmly, but in no uncertain terms, that I appreciate what they wanted to do. But my daughter made it explicitly clear that she did not want this party, and my wife is trying to pressure her into it. Several of the moms frown at her. My wife starts to backpedal, talking about how she didn't think she was being serious, but I ignore her and begin taking down the decoration. Everyone clears out shortly, and once the coast is clear, 12-year-old comes back downstairs. My wife gives her a half-assed, in my opinion, apology, again saying she didn't think she was being serious, but 12-year-old also ignores her and just starts doing her homework in her usual place at the table. My wife was pissed at me for a week, claiming that I undermined her authority as a parent, apparently by not helping her force our daughter into doing something she didn't want to do, and made her look bad in front of the neighborhood moms by telling them she'd been doing this against our daughter's wishes. So, am I the astronaut?
Dad is NTA.
Yeah.
He handled it better than the mom.
Dad is green flag. Period.
Yeah. Also, I feel like a dad stepping in to help because mom was at home is great. It's great to have two parents that understand it and can help you through it.
If he would have clammed up and done what she wanted him to do and just been like,
Yeah.
you'll just have to talk to your mom about that when she gets home, she would have been more uncomfortable and ashamed with what was going on with her in that
100%.
moment. He treated it like no big deal. He's like, well, cool. We knew this was going to happen. Here's what you do, blah, blah, blah. Is the best thing he could have done.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And mom feels like she missed out because she wasn't there in the moment. And I see chat has the same sentiment. She's overcompensating because she wasn't there. You don't have to do that. Like, just show up in whatever way your daughter needs you. It is a life-changing moment, and it is something that you probably never forget. And I haven't read the update, so I'm not really sure what happens. Yeah, but we're gonna find out.
Here is the update. Hey everyone, thought I'd post an update. Yes, it's quick, but just a further explanation plus some commentary. Had to split it into two because it was too long. Next part is in the reply to this reply. First, I'd like to thank everyone who supported my decision. Second, to those who decided I'm AI or use ChatGPT to write this, and nothing I can do or say will convince you one way or the other, so do your thing, man. Third, I'm not gonna divorce my wife or anything like that. She's an incredible woman, and as corny as it sounds, my one true love. She's been an amazing mom, never done anything like this before, wasn't planning on posting it to social media. She barely even uses Facebook. She just made a misstep here for reasons which I will get into shortly. I can't respond to every comment, but I'll expand on some which caught my attention. 12-year-old did in fact get the talk from wife when she turned 12, so she knew what was happening, but it was still something she hadn't experienced before, so it threw her a little. I emailed my two closest sisters, and they both said in their opinions her reaction was normal. As one of them put it, even at best it can be a shock, regardless of whether or not you're prepared for it, because it just happens. And even if you felt PMS-style symptoms without ever having felt them before, you might not guess what they are until afterward. No, I did not notice the decorations being put up. I had to go out and run some errands related to my work, was gone about 3 to 4 hours, more than enough time for wife to decorate, in secret, by the way. Which means if she was doing it and keeping it a secret, she knew it was fucking wrong. Before we had kids, wife and I agreed we would treat boys or girls the same when it came to bodily functions, i.e. we'd make sure the boys would be comfortable going to her with questions or problems if I wasn't around, and vice versa. Over the years, we would keep up with age-appropriate literature so we'd be equally informed. Just so happened we only had girls. Around 10 or so, when they started wanting more detailed explanations of where do babies come from and such, we always conducted such conversations as a team, making it clear to each of them they could count on either of us. That being said, there have been some things which I never took part in. For example, the 19-year-old never asked me to take her bra shopping. That was all wife. She did, however, occasionally ask me to pick up tampons or such in the years before she went to college. No, the 12-year-old did not wait to tell me. It happened right after she got home from school on a half day. My wife works 10-hour shifts, so she wouldn't have been there, as I said in my OP, for another 4 hours. 12-year-old has always been closer to my wife than me. 19-year-old was closer to me than wife, but I was who was available. I'm sure that if we had both been around, she would have gone to her mom. I wasn't trying to claim the dialogue was verbatim what we said. My memory isn't that good. But the general tone is there, and some of it I did in fact remember word for word. So after a few days, things around the house went back to normal. The wife cooled off, 12-year-old began talking to her again, and they didn't appear to have any issues, except that 12-year-old began coming to me more often about things instead of her mom. Wife obviously noticed, as they had been very close before this, and was hurt, but said nothing. I guess she figured she deserved it. Finally, one day after I got back from taking 12-year-old to school, wife asked if she was still angry with her. I said I didn't think so, and wife just kind of deflated. She looked so miserable that I actually got worried and asked if she was still angry. Wife said no, then admitted that she had up and gotten too into the concept of what others have called menstruation celebration, which is a great phrase. It even rhymes. She said she'd been so focused on making sure the 12-year-old had a positive experience that she brushed aside her reluctance to take part. And in my wife's defense, 12-year-old regularly does this. She'll say she isn't looking forward to doing something, but if she pushes past her shyness and takes part, nearly always has a good time. So wife had thought this was just another example of the 12-year-old doing that and didn't take it seriously. Then wife said something which threw me for a loop. She asked me if I thought our 12-year-old hated her now. I was stunned and automatically replied, of course not. She's just... And then I kind of trailed off because I didn't really know what to say. Upset was what I finally settled on. Wife was quiet. Then I asked her why she had been so insistent, since she hadn't tried to do this for the 19-year-old. No drama there. 19-year-old got hers at 13 while they were out shopping. It was handled before they even left the mall. She said when 19-year-old started, it was such a busy day that she didn't really have any time to think about it beyond, quick, let's go to the bathroom so I can help. And it wasn't until after this that wife really thought about her own first, which basically consisted of her being told virtually nothing beforehand by her emotionally manipulative mother. They've been no contact for 15 years. Barely being 12 when it happened, and once she did go to her mom, only being handed a box of pads and warned not to get pregnant. Nothing more was ever said about it between them. My wife had to learn nearly everything from a friend's mother. Yeah, that old woman is a piece of work. Wife was determined she wouldn't behave like that toward 12-year-old when it happened, but as events show, she basically went too far in the other direction. Then she asked me what I thought she should do to fix this. I told her the truth. 12-year-old probably wasn't going to feel comfortable confiding in her again for a while, but if she really wanted to apologize, she should tell our daughter what she just told me. And so she did. My wife went to pick up the 12-year-old from school, and when they got home, I saw they had both been crying, but also seemed happier. Turned out I wasn't quite right, and 12-year-old had still been harboring some resentment toward my wife for trying to push her into the PP, but after hearing wife's story, 12-year-old decided to forgive her, and asking that wife promise not to do something like that again. And 2 months later, this happened in May, things between them seemed to be back to normal. Maybe not the most exciting resolution, but I don't think the 12-year-old is going to hold a grudge over this or has permanently damaged their relationship. Holy shit! Somebody communicated and was able to resolve an issue? Mark this day on your calendars.
I think, and I know some people don't like this saying, but hurt people. And the wife was obvious. And like I said, I feel like it's a moment that you don't forget as a woman. Like, you remember that moment, and you remember how you were treated in that moment, and you remember how it felt. And I think the wife was so caught up in making sure that it wasn't a bad moment that she went completely in the wrong direction, and actually ended up ruining the moment for her 12-year-old.
She was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, she had her own hurt, stored back trauma, and because of that, she reacted in a way that she normally wouldn't react it, as confirmed by the husband. And so I think, I don't know, I thought it was a good update, and I think it's important to remember that we all f*** up. We all make detrimental mistakes that can change the course of our life, and we can choose to work through those, communicate through those, and try to redeem ourselves, or we can let it define who we are and go the complete wrong direction. So I just thought this was an interesting story that she was like, there was some trauma there, and it came out in a way that hurt her own daughter when her intentions were the opposite. So I'm glad they communicated.
Which is kind of thematic of generational trauma, right? Like we try to overcorrect so hard that we create new problems of the opposite
100%,
kind.
100%.
And still do the same amount of damage. So it's like, what? But the cool part here was that, yes, she was finally able to communicate, talk to her daughter, and move past this, which should have happened much, much sooner. But for that month or however much time she was between this happening, her being mad at husband, then being cooled off, but still being kind of distant with her daughter, she was working this problem in her head and trying to figure out how she could fix it herself. To finally get to the point where you are vulnerable enough to be open with your partner and be like, I f***ed up and I don't know how to fix this.
Right.
I need help, and ask your partner for inputs to try to resolve something. That's when real change can happen. And I think it's so cool. There's this moment when change is inevitable, but most possible. And it's that moment where you get most fed up with your own bullshit, right? You have to get so fed up with yourself that you're just like, it, I need help.
100%. And I think to have a partner that you can be vulnerable with and allow them to step in and support you in the way that a good partner should. I know that's something that not everybody is blessed with, but I think that's one of the most important things in a partnership.
It's what makes a partnership,
and
right?
to allow them, and I think we've talked about this before, but when you're not able to be 100%, and I call what happened to wife in that moment where her trauma overtook what she knew was right and acted inappropriately, she wasn't at 100% and allowed her partner to help her and to pull extra weight and to like confide in him and make this a different outcome than it could have been, because it could have rifted their entire relationship, wife and daughter. And I'm glad that it didn't, and I'm glad that she was able to move forward, because that would suck.
Yeah.